Terry here, and we are talking about a little known factor that leads to divorce that many people really don't realize how it's led to their divorce or how it played as a factor into their marriage and their unhealthy relationship patterns. And we're going to talk about that and how to bust that pattern and the fastest way to heal after divorce. So I'm Terry Vanover, and I've helped hundreds of high-achieving divorce professionals find inner peace and find their confidence and feel secure again after divorce by healing their abandonment wounds. And that's what we're talking about today. So many of my clients come to me and they have the awareness and the recognition that they struggle with abandonment wounds and that they had a shitty childhood, they had a dysfunctional family, and they recognize how that played into the deterioration of their own marriage, that they didn't have the right communication skills, they didn't have the right role models of healthy parenting and healthy love and all that stuff. But there's some other clients that come to me that insist, like, I don't have abandonment wounds, my parents aren't divorced, I'm not, I came from a two-parent home. But the thing is, abandonment wounds are more prevalent, and almost all of us have them. Just to what degree? For many, many children, they can be very highly sensitive. And an abandonment wound is simply where a parent is incapable or unable, or there's that, from the child's perspective, their emotional needs were not met. Now, and sometimes these abandonment wounds can be caused by pretty, obvious things like substance abuse, a parent that has a mental illness, but there's more subtle instances too, where the child senses a sense of resentment, or the child senses that they're not accepted. A highly critical parent is really one, and a lot of us, been there, done that, got the t-shirt. Were raised with a very highly critical parent or parents where the love was conditional, where you had to achieve certain things to get that attention, to get that validation, to get that emotional response from their parents. And that if you didn't do the certain things or act a certain way, that love, that attention was taken away. Another client in particular I think of, his parents were particularly resentful. He just had this sense of resentment against them, and there was this detachment that he always sensed. And when he came to me, trust me, when he said, I don't know what you're talking about, I had a great childhood, and then of course he had all these like check, where his parents had done these things. Again, I'm not blaming our parents, because I think our parents do the best that they can. They're suffering with their own abandonment wounds, their own generational trauma, lack of parenting themselves. They're just doing the best that they can. But it's our job to break that generational trauma and break that generational cycle so that our kids don't repeat our mistakes. So, how do these abandonment wounds manifest? I'm going to give you a really great case sample coming up too. But one of the ways that they manifest is it looks like insecurity, jealousy, an inability to let go, holding grudges. People pleasing is a big one, particularly for women. Just constantly feeling insecure, feeling like you're not good enough. And so those things, controlling, that was a big one for me. I was very controlling because I felt like if my partner doesn't act a certain way, he doesn't love me. Or it meant that we weren't compatible, or I was afraid of being abandoned if we weren't, the same. And so those things will sabotage a relationship. So you may either sabotage healthy relationships like I did, or you tend to repeat unhealthy relationship patterns like my next client that I worked with, who was Sue. When she came to me after a couple of bad just dating scenarios, and so she was tired of it, and she was tired of dating low quality men. She was well educated. She worked at a big corporate job, and she was, smart, funny, independent. And yet, she struggled to date men who were high quality. She was intimidated by high quality, well-educated, well-to-do men, and so she was always selling herself short. But the most significant way that her abandonment wound was showing up was that she was minimizing the red flags. So her abandonment wound came from the fact that she was from a very conservative religious family, and she was adopted. And again, we know intellectually as adults, like, hey, I know I was wanted, I know I was loved, I know my parents didn't mean anything, but internally as children, we make everything about ourselves, and especially if we're highly sensitive children, like she was, because she's very creative, artistic, she's wild spirit, very spirited, and that was the antithesis of her family. And so she felt like she never really belonged. She felt like she wasn't really accepted for who she is. Intellectually, you can rationalize it all if you want, but when you do the inner child healing, you recognize it when you see it. And that's exactly what I did. I helped her identify that exact wound and gave her the exact strategy to heal that wound. And when we identify the exact wound, where it started, when it started, I give the prescription for what it is, the activity, the inner child healing strategy, or the reparenting activity that you need to heal that wound. And once you do, you start showing up differently in all of your relationships. So the reason why this presented itself, because she was dating this guy who she had kind of like, we were working on breaking this pattern, and sure enough, like, he was just like the ex, right? Here's the pattern. Not dependable, says one thing, does another. So it was, the red flags were there, and she already knew she needed a guy who was consistent, who kept his word, who was dependable. And when we went back to that abandonment wound, which was feeling accepted, where was he mirroring that for her? And here's the thing, she felt so accepted by him and just so comfortable. He just made her feel really comfortable. And I'm like, that's great. Now you've got to fill that void yourself and stop looking for a man to fill that void. Learn to love yourself unconditionally, accept yourself unconditionally, and give yourself what you're needing from that man, so that you're not looking to him to fill that void and minimizing the red flags, because she was kind of rationalizing, well, he does have a son, and yeah, I'll just, forgive him this one time. And then, of course, the one time turns into 2 times, and then 3 times, and 4 times. And, of course, I called her a data collector. Those are my women that see that pattern early on, but they just keep collecting data. And it's like, how much data do you need to collect? How many red flags do you need to put in your box before you'll just wave your white flag and just surrender, okay? So you've got to stop being a data collector. When people show you who they are, believe them the first time. And sure enough, here she is today after working with me. She's working and got a promotion since we've worked together. Again, it all goes to that self-esteem and lack of people pleasing. She's dating a high quality guy. It's a very stable relationship. Her kids adore him. He's got great kids, and I mean, it couldn't be a happier ending if I wished it. So if you want a happy ending and you're looking for that healthy relationship, and you're ready to heal those abandonment wounds so that you can find inner peace and feel secure and feel confident and stop second guessing yourself, I have a free resource where I'm going to give you 3, we're going to dig deep during this, y'all. We're going to dig deep, and I'm going to give you the 3 keys that you really need to know in order to find inner peace in the aftermath of divorce, even if you have a high conflict and you struggle to trust yourself. So just hashtag yes below, or shoot me a DM, and I'll get you that resource, okay? All right, I will see you next week.